Whether it's intentional or not, OK Kaya's music is super powerful in that it can pack a punch all while being somehow understated with absolute zingers of lyrics like you can peel an orange however you want in the Psych Ward. Kaya immediately sets you in a place, a time, and with a feeling, all with the cheeky little smart wink. It doesn't get more postmodern than songs like IUD, which to Kaya might be a bold testament to our terrifying state of reproductive health care. And to me, it just beautifully captures yet another very common experience that goes unspoken. There is something very special about OK Kaya and what her universe of music brings to the table. Hi, I'm Kate. I love music and you can too. I will provide receipts behind this fact, but OK Kaya is the absolute coolest and I simply need a place to find more people to talk about her art because wow, it is expansive and covers more mediums than you might expect. I think I learned about OK Kaya initially from her Believe Share cover. You're Still the One cover also off that little EP is fabulous, fantastic. But I've since become a certified fan, okay? My favorite tracks, Hindsight's a Bitch, IUD, as discussed, Psych Ward, as discussed, insert generic name here. Her new album, Oh My God, That's So Me, is definitely worth checking out. Check Your Face is particularly groovy. And I also very much loved Sap. That album is so textured and ethereal and has so many beautiful harmonies. But do not get it twisted. This woman is not just a musician, okay? She is busy. She models for the likes of Marc Jacobs, H&M, Off-White, Calvin Klein. She's acted in projects like Thelma. She's composed for video games like Death Stranding. I don't know much about this, but it seems like it's a very beautiful game. She also directs a lot of her music videos. From the interviews and clips that I could find, it seems like she's always kind of been hand in hand with the camera, and this definitely comes through with her visual sensibilities. I also really like this electronic duo called Ultraflex, and there's a super fun video that she directed for Full of Lust, which I highly recommend checking out because so fun and also total underrated banger. She's truly a one-woman show, and I mean that in the literal sense of if you go to see her live, depending on what kind of show it is, it might just be her.
I feel really supported by my band. So we've been playing a bunch of shows. Our sets are getting really tight, and yeah. Gets a bit crowded in the van sometimes.
Yeah, definitely. So for those of you listening at home, you may imagine a bunch of humans in here as Kaya's band. Actually, there is a clay figurine display.
Which I can very much relate to as someone who sometimes plays with a band and other times am just wiggling alone. But she's also a vocalist, a producer, a writer, and an engineer. It's truly coming from the source without too much filtration from what I can tell. And the reason why OK Kaya's music is so important in this landscape is the holistic experience of it all, right? We have some pop bops, catchy melodies, but it's not packaged in this overly flashy, ostentatious shine that we usually tend to associate with larger than life pop music. No. It couldn't be more different. It's about real life grounded experiences. It finds beauty in the mundane and makes a joke about it. And the visuals, I think, very much match that sentiment to a T without being boring or uninspired, which I think involves a lot more effort than it appears. Her art feels very abstracted sometimes from the self in a way that's refreshing. I remember hearing in one interview that while she's recording She's constantly forgetting melodies. So the reason why she'll do one take on a particular part of the song isn't necessarily because she's being particular or whatnot. It's just that if she sings it again, it's going to come out a different way. And that's not what you would expect to hear from a professional artist discussing the craft. But I think that's what makes her creative process so intriguing. Her process is staying open. It's seeing what happens largely without an agenda.
Could we talk a little bit about your process? And
I don't know. No, I have no idea. I feel like sometimes if it's like a tap that I can't turn off and it's like a little bit annoying, but I like guess it's a part of the practice.
And somehow it still ends up being memorable and having these like catchy hooks that you might associate with a more clinical, crisp, clear pop studio process. On getting into the headspace for creation, Kaya has remarked, I think I do what we all do. We're just like, how do I amplify this? Or why does this feeling matter? And why do I have to say it? And how do I do it? That's basically my little checklist before I just take off. But I don't know really what happens after that. I guess I try a lot of stuff. It's kind of magical when it works. The thing that we don't really know. We know where it comes from, but we don't know how it comes out, or why it comes out in this way, or why we have to do this, or talk about it, or look a certain way, or read a certain way. It preserves this sense of wonder, and it doesn't try and explain what we can't always understand about creating things. I also think it's pretty humble, okay? There are so many singer-songwriters, right? Deliberately building soundscapes that are really minimal and don't have a lot of instrumentation or fun little production tricks to distract you. You have no choice as the listener but to listen intently and hear exactly what the lyrics are saying. And as someone who has to mix and produce my own voice, and I'm sure any other artist can relate, what a terrifying choice. But her lyrics hold, despite her having no idea exactly where it comes from. We all don't know what we're doing, but maybe that's what brings us together. Kaya's art is soft and dense and has a visual presence that very much matches that sentiment to a T. You can definitely feel and see and hear the influence of growing up in Norway. It's naturalistic, it's raw, it's beautiful, but you take that and then you pair it with the humor, the honesty, and sometimes like lyrical brashness that feels very American. It's a combination that doesn't feel like it would work, but Kaya somehow bridges those worlds so well. Another thing that I think is so fun in both her performances and how she writes is her mastery of comedic timing and delivery.
when I watch you perform or even just talk is like how slick you are with just like sliding in the jokes with the straight face and the puns. The puns, like they're really good, and I have pun envy, I have to say. And I see like a twinkle in your eye when you sneak in a good pun. You know what I mean?
Her sincerity in how she delivers silly little lines is her superpower. And you don't have to roam far and wide throughout her discography to understand what I'm saying. I mean, with track names like Comic Sans in regards to your tweet, you're already intrigued. Like, how in the world are you gonna write a beautiful song about Comic Sans? Riddle me that, but she does it. The music feels effortless and it doesn't feel overly contrived. And I think one of the reasons why OK Kai is so good at that is because she's an artist of so many different mediums and doesn't close herself off to expressing in any which way. On her process, OK Kai says, no matter what I do, an idea starts in my head and then I find whatever medium that is suitable. It's just like this is a picture or this is a sound. I don't think about it too much. I do think everything is play in a really simple way for me a lot of the time. Despite some of the critical acclaim, although I think there could be much more, her art still manages to feel personal and sincere, but very much leaves room for you to leave your own imprint on. And there's also just fun references like the Groke. If it wasn't for OK Kaya, I would have no knowledge of this little bit of modern folklore, but I'm not mad about it. A lot of her lyrics feel so topical, but there's also references pulled from all over. I love it when a piece of art points me to another piece of art or culture that maybe I hadn't heard about before. And she definitely has a perspective, but through her covers and the way she designs her music production-wise, she isn't afraid to reference other work. It doesn't feel like the work is dominated by greed. I don't know if that makes sense. I guess what I'm trying to say is it just feels like a very pure, authentic expression that still manages to be relatable to a lot of people if they get the chance to sit down and listen, which can be a rarity in today's landscape. I love that she talks about making music with her family. In her interviews, she's just as confused and unsure of how she created things as the rest of the mystified lovers of her music. But make no mistake, there is so much skill involved. It takes a lot of courage, self-assuredness with the right balance of openness to be able to create something just so that it actually says something, but be willing to shift to the dynamic conditions of being introduced to something new, learning about a new cultural reference, or working with a different collaborator, which seems like an important part of her work.
Yeah, I realized I wanted to spend more time with my family, and I think it's kind of tricky to do that as an adult. Like you go home for like maybe holidays or birthdays or something that's really like tradition and this and that. But I was like, oh, when's the most fun times we've had is like creating something together. So
it must be so jarring to be so effortlessly open. I love that Kaya says the things that we don't say but all feel. And wowee, we are lucky to get some amazing art. It's magic because OK Kaya is just as confused as anyone else. And that's the beauty in it. Every song is a little punchline to the absurdity and absolute randomness of feelings and the universe and understanding who you are as a person. OK Kaya's art is perfectly present, and I can't wait to watch, hear, see, and experience all there is to come. Woohoo! If you're a OK Kaya fan, I would love to hear what your favorite track is. Get me hip. And yeah, I'll be back soon to talk about more music because we love music. Thanks for watching. Bye.